Hello, today we're talking about Aftermath, and specifically we're going to talk about reputation, the thing that makes Aftermath different than anything else. First, let me talk a little bit about reputation and say something interesting. This is the majority of the reputation page from book 3. It's a page and a half, and it basically talks about a little known thing. And I say little known because a lot of game masters that run Aftermath don't use reputation or don't know how important it is. But reputation is sort of an interesting theory. Now, you might be tempted to just blow this off because it's just a page and a half in an inch thick rule book. But if we look at the character sheet, on the back of the character sheet, they've given half the space on the character sheet on the back to the reputation system. And it's not even called reputation, it's just called rep. On the back of the character sheet, it's really poorly done. So what is reputation and why is it important to the game? Well, first, Aftermath has always been a lot of combat, a lot of role-playing, but there is no alignment system or system that allows characters to create themselves and kind of run. So how is role-playing done in Aftermath? It's a little different. Role-playing in Aftermath works exactly the opposite. It works opposite. So what does that mean? In D&D, you are a character and you wish to be lawful good. So you play a lawful good character. That's you. You're lawful good. You try and expound upon being lawful good. You are lawful good. Everything you do is lawful good. All your role playing as a player goes to be lawful good. In Aftermath, they take the opposite approach. They say you are who you are, and who you are is actually who you are. So the reputation system tells you who you are. So a character with a reputation as a fighter, hand to hand, could be known as a good fighter or a bad fighter or just an average fighter. But they have a reputation for being a fighter. So that's interesting. And role-playing wise, that might change the game a little bit. You show up at a town, people have heard of you, you're a great hand-to-hand fighter. That could be, to use to your advantage. But what if your reputation was you just killed everybody? What if your reputation was I am a killer, I kill everybody? Well, that would definitely change how people reacted to you. Shops might not be interested in dealing with you. Local law enforcement might be hesitant to have you come into the town. So this gives us a little bit of feedback when we're playing with characters. As a game master, you can assign reputation for things. You can assign positive merit or negative merit. So positive merit does not mean it's positive to support the character, although we do use that as a convention. Fighter hand-to-hand is always considered the merit, and a positive merit would be you're a good fighter, and negative merit means you're a bad fighter. Personal bravery, which is also listed, is the same way. If you're brave and it's positive, you're brave. If it's negative, you're a coward. So when you create your own, let's say you create one that says climber. In other words, this character is a good climber, wants to be known for climbing, which is something that characters are known for. Now you can come up with a cute name for that, or you can just call it climbing. And if you have a positive merit for climbing, you're a good climber. If you have a negative merit for climbing, you're a bad climber. But it's tempting for game masters to say falling, or tumbling off buildings, or sliding down slopes, or something like that. And that's a negative thing. And then you would give positive merit to that negative thing. So they fall a lot. So that positive merit would mean they do fall a lot, and a negative merit would mean that they're good at climbing. That's just confusing. So as a convention, we tend to use the positive as the merit. So when you're looking at a merit creation, you create a positive merit. This character is stable on their feet. And then if they're not stable on their feet because they fall down all the time, you simply give them negative merit. So they would be unstable on their feet because they have a lot of negative merit. Or if it balances out, then their overall merit would be balanced. Now, merit totals. It doesn't go up or down. So if you have fighter hand-to-hand, you have 5 positive merits and 5 negative merits, then in math, that says that's a 0. You're known for being a fighter, but you're not very good at it. And that would be a 0. But keep in mind that also adds up to 10 total merit points. 10 merit points means you're known for being a fighter. Even though some of those merit points are negative and some of them are positive, you're still known for being a fighter. And that can be good if one of the characters in a game I was running was a diplomat. He had diplomacy. Diplomacy was a positive merit for him, and he was very diplomatic. And where that came into play was he saw himself as a character who was a mechanic, a simple mechanic who worked on cars. And through gameplay, he began collecting merit. And his merit came up to be a completely different character than he was playing. He was playing this humble mechanic that did nothing but fix cars. But when we looked at his merit was completely different. He was a diplomat. He was a leader. He was everything he wanted to be, but not, because that's not the character he wanted to play. His role-playing feedback told him that his character was not being played correctly. And he learned that his playstyle was not, his character background didn't match the way he played. And it was great feedback for the player because he realized this character was not the character he wanted to play. He did not want to be a diplomat. He actually retired that player and got a new character that he could play properly so that he didn't gain all this merit and things he didn't want. Another really good example of that is in a game we had a character named Sissy. Sissy was a shooter. Sissy shot a lot of people. Sissy shot everybody. She was just shooting everything up. Sissy was a killer. But the character may have acted that way, but had carefully crafted her reputation to avoid being a killer. She was not known as a killer because she carefully crafted her reputation so that nobody thought of her as a killer. And she did that through role-playing. And that gives another avenue for role-playing for characters because they can actually craft their reputation by role-playing. Even though she shot tons of people, she crafted a reputation that she only shot people that needed to be shot, and she wasn't a killer. She was simply someone defending herself. It worked out really good, and it led to role-playing. The character had to be role-played to make that happen. Otherwise, if you just tallied up the number of people she killed, it was in the hundreds. She was a killer, but she didn't have any reputation for being a killer because of a carefully crafted reputation. So it works as a feedback system for characters. If you're a player and you want to know how well you roleplay, you can look at your reputation. If you imagine yourself as a diplomat and a leader of men, and that's what you're playing, you're doing a good job role-playing. If you imagine yourself as a simple mechanic and you're a leader of men and a diplomat, you're not really being realistic with the way you're playing your character. So the reputation system is pretty unique. It allows you to build a character. So let's go back to lawful evil or lawful good. In Dungeons and Dragons, you have a lawful good character. You are restrained to staying in that thing. And if you don't, the Dungeon Master will probably punish you for it. But in Aftermath, you are not restrained by anything except the vision you have for your character's role-playing personality. If you want your character to be something, if you want to be a lawful good paladin in Aftermath, you need to be lawful good. You need to do lawful good things all of the time because your reputation will start to suck if you don't. And it's a huge way of keeping characters on track. Characters who want to be one thing or play another, it gives them a goal to do it. If a character wants to be known as a killer, they have to build that reputation. They're not simply a killer. One reputation a character had, he wanted to be known for somebody who shoots people. He wanted to be a shooter, a sniper. That was his goal. He wanted to be a sniper. Well, the problem with that is this game's based on a D20. And yes, he had a BCS of like 18, but when you shoot at people, you have their combat dodge ability, you have their movement, you have all kinds of things that get in the way of that. So he didn't hit as much as he really wanted to. And as a shooter, he was pretty average. And he envisioned his character being this great sniper, but he wasn't. He was simply an average shooter, hit maybe 50% of the time. And his reputation reflected that. And it was disappointing for the player because his character wasn't this shooter. But in reality, his character wasn't that shooter. His character was a fairly okay shooter. So it helps characters players keep their characters in line because the characters don't have problems. They basically have to be who they are. If your character is a plumber, by the way, there's no plumbing skill in Aftermath for some unknown reason. If your character is a plumber, which by the way we cover by allowing masons and carpenters to do plumbing. But if your character is a plumber and everything you build falls apart and leaks, you're going to be called a bad plumber. And this reputation management system in Aftermath does that. It allows you to manage your reputation. And it's only a page and a half in the back of book 3. It's very small and it seems insignificant. And if it wasn't for the thing that's on the screen right now, you'd think that reputation wasn't important at all, but it is. And if you look at a character's reputation, you can start to see how that would affect things. Let's see here. Reputation. I don't believe that any of these characters have a reputation. They don't. But let me show you the reputation manager. These are test characters that we're using. So let me show you the reputation management system and how that works, because there's some important things doing in there. So this is the reputation for a character called Josh Green. That's actually a character in another game. And that character I just pulled into my test bed here so we could test it. So these are the merits that the Aftermath gives you by default. And you can add new merits. And this character has no merits because I didn't assign any. But these are the base competencies and the base skills. So if Josh Green was extremely stealthy, we'd begin adding positive rep to him. And as the reputation goes up, he becomes more well known. And if you give him 10 of these reputations, did I just give him a... Well, he had 5 because it rounds, but now he's got 10, right? So now he has a recognition factor. A recognition factor means that people might have heard of him. And the higher the recognition factor, the higher it goes. Now, there's only one limitation to that, and there are things called reputation zones. Josh has a reputation of 1 in his default zone. But if there was another zone, he wouldn't have a default reputation. There'd have to be a roll made to see if he gets his reputation. And zones are usually areas where people work together. So a zone might be the state of Nebraska or the city that he lives in, or however, depending on how big of an area he goes. That would be one reputation zone. And then there would be other reputation zones. And reputation zones allow characters to be unknown if they need to be unknown. They go somewhere they're unknown. But you can have a known character and an unknown character. Recognition value goes up. And as the recognition value goes up, NPCs will begin acting differently if the Game Master is playing it right. NPCs will begin acting differently toward the character. Josh, we just gave him a reputation. So let's look at that reputation we gave him. We gave him a competence, stealth, reputation of 10. That means he's extremely sneaky. Now, what does that imply? That implies he's extremely sneaky. So maybe that could also imply that he's not completely honest. So you got to be careful how you craft your stealth, because a stealth competency means you sneak around a lot, and sneaking around a lot might be a bad thing. It might be a good thing depending on, if you're in one of those worlds where, monsters jump out and eat you like the Silent movie, maybe having a reputation of being very quiet is kind of cool. But if you're living in a normal-ish 150-year after campaign and you're that sneaky guy, well, you're probably not well liked. So the whole thing allows us to craft characters that can be built, and it gives us feedback to players. The reputation system is one of the things that makes Aftermath really awesome. And I think that any game master that wants to run Aftermath should take a serious look at this reputation system, because it's pretty amazing. Well, thank you.